Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast, the lowdown on Boro's new midfielder, Aidan Morris. Aidan has joined us from Columbus Crew on a removed fee of $4 million with a sell-on clause included. But that, we just have no idea what that sell-on clause is. He's joined us on a 4-year deal. In the background on him, he is 22 years old. He grew up in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. He's a USA international with 5 senior caps. He started out at Western FC, a youth-based side in Florida, and in 2017 moved to the Columbus Crew Academy, went through the ranks, played 1 season of college football, and then signed for Columbus Crew as a homegrown player in January 2020. But what does Michael Carrick think of him? He said he suits our style of play. He's strong. He likes to get on the ball and play with both feet. He's at a good age, but already had taste for success and has a good amount of experience, and we're excited to work with him. But let's not get our opinion yet then. Let's listen to Grant Miller from the Massive Report about Boro's new man.
So yeah, thank you for having me on here. My name is Grant Miller. I'm a contributing writer for MassiveReport.com, a website that covers the Columbus Crew. Aidan's one of our fan favorites here in Columbus. He's been with the club since 2020. He was signed out of our youth academy, played and started in our Cup final championship in that 2020 season at the age of 18, the original midfield starter. Had to miss that game for COVID. The Crew won 3-0 in a huge upset win in the MLS Cup Championship that Aidan played phenomenally in, and is one of the biggest moments in club history. He unfortunately missed the 2021 season. He tore his ACL in the early stages of the continental competition that year. So that was a bit of a setback, but you would never know that he dealt with that knee injury from the way he's been playing. He's an incredibly aggressive player. He's great at winning the ball. He was near the top of the league in tackles won last year. Really high up on interceptions. Defensively, just wins the ball, plays very aggressive. And that's kind of been his real strength since he was even like a young player. But his game really flourished in the past year and a half. The Crew got a new head coach in Wilfred Nancy, one of the up-and-coming kind of MLS coaches here in the States. And one of the main things he said when he first got this job was he had to kind of teach Aidan he didn't have to run so much. Kind of the MO with Aidan was he was going to touch every blade of grass on the field over the 90 minutes. So Wilford's been very instrumental in getting him to be a little bit more cerebral and kind of focus his energy properly over the course of 90 minutes. He still plays very aggressively. He's still going to get in there and try to win the ball, but his game has matured a lot. His progressive passing into the attacking third has been really great, and pinging like long diagonals to change the kind of attack is really started to improve, and it was something that I think a lot of people were very surprised and impressed by. And then he will kind of bang one in from outside the box. There's been some real highlight level goals the past couple of years that he's been able to produce. So he's a very exciting and easy player to root for as you watch his game, because he plays so hard, and he really does kind of find the way to influence games, even when maybe he's not having his best moments. He's had a great season so far for the Crew, part of a team that led us to the Continental Championship here in North America. Unfortunately, we're not able to win the tournament, but they would not have gotten as far without a guy like Aidan. Things to improve on is he's still very young. He's only 22. Sometimes maybe his touch in and around kind of the attacking third in terms of progressing the ball and dribbling can be areas of improvement. He's had a couple yellow cards that were questionable. He plays so aggressively, but there's nothing glaring about him that you say, oh, that he's not going to produce in this situation, or this will be something he struggles in. He really does find a way to make the right decisions more often than not. And you'll have a ton of new Middlesbrough fans here in Columbus, because he like I said at the start of it, he's a real fan favorite, and someone that we're really proud of here in Columbus. So thanks for having me on and being able to talk about him a little bit. We're all really excited for the next step in his career.
So thank you very much for that, Grant. So Dana, we've signed a fan favourite, someone who is aggressive and defensively really strong. I mean, his touch could be improved in the final third, but I don't think he's that type of player. But he's our third official signing of the summer, Luke Ayling. And it was the first in the door. Bergzorg was second, and now Aidan Morris. And there probably could be some more to come over the next week or two. But what do you think of Aidan Morris?
Well, before I get into that, he's also a player that loves chicken parmesan pasta, because I was reading a biography on the Columbus Crew website and that's what his favourite food is. So he's basically halfway to absolutely loving parmos. Of course, he's already been asked to have one. It's just the standard procedure for Boro fans. But yeah,
Dana, 2 seconds. Just need to say that chicken parm and chicken parmo it's different in the States. You know, they have a tomato base with the cheese. So the change in bechamel sauce, I don't know where he's gonna. I didn't want to stop you in your tracks there, but you've got to flag it.
You got me on a technicality, so fair play. Sometimes things need to be corrected. But yeah, back onto the football and not onto food. I quite like the way that Aidan Morris plays. The chant that Columbus Crew fans have for him is he's here, he's there, he's every fucking where. Aidan Morris. He's in the top 7% in the MLS for tackles. And get this, because I am going to throw a bunch of stats at you just to delve into this a little bit deeper. He's in the top 6% for tackles won. Within that, the top 15% for tackles won in the defensive third, the top 5% for tackles won in the middle third, and finally the top 7% for tackles won in the final third. So he is a very aggressive player. He's somebody that on the first pass out from the opposition's goalkeeper, he will try to win the ball back straight away. And I have seen some good clips of him in regards to counter pressing as well. So that's definitely something to look out for in terms of his defensive and off the ball output. I think he's quite strong in that regard. In regards to the way that Columbus Crew play, firstly, I actually really enjoyed watching them when I was looking at bits of Aidan Morris's game, because they play pretty similar to Boro on a basic standpoint, in that they like to build out from the back and they like to pass through the thirds. Only LA Galaxy attempted more passes per 90 than their 558. So it's no surprise, really, that Morris was averaging 66 passes per 90 in 2023. His average pass completion was 92%. Only his Crew teammate, Darlington Nagbe, had higher. By the way, Darlington Nagbe, very good player as well in his own right. So he's got a very good midfield partner beside him there. To bring it to Middlesbrough, something that we saw fall down last season was that first pass from Seny Dieng to Dan Barlaser in particular. I think he got a little bit stuck because he's a player that probably wants a lot more time on the ball than he's probably allowed. With Aidan Morris, he's somebody that can drop deep, he can link play, he can initiate these triangles to basically beat the press. It's not something that I'm expecting him to be like to absolutely nail in the championship, because remember, this is a completely different league. He's a young player. It's a completely different country. The style of play might be similar in regards to Columbus Crew and Middlesbrough, but the speed of the leagues will be different. So that's something to keep an eye out. But in terms of being a link player and trying to beat the press, he's somebody that always wants the ball. He's always shifting around, trying to find those pockets of space so that he can receive a pass. He's also a willing ball carrier. Only Ricky Puig of LA Galaxy, the ex-Barcelona player, averaged more carries per 90 than him last season. You might think, in regards to going back to the pass completion rate being 92%, that he only passes backwards. I think he is a good recycler of the ball. He was averaging 6 progressive passes per 90 last season, which was above the league average, but still maybe something he can improve on and add to. And also within that, I likened him in a piece that I wrote about him to Josh Cullen. And Jonny, you obviously know of Josh Cullen being a former Anderlecht player, but somebody that is a good recycler of possession, and when needed, he can lift that ball through, break the lines with his passing. And sometimes I think you just need somebody that can control the midfield, somebody that can keep things ticking. I think it's a very underappreciated craft. And with Aidan Morris, I don't expect him to be a standout player for us. I think he will be a solid player that can potentially have a few, maybe 8 out of 10 performances, but for the most part, I think he will be like that solid 7 out of 10 player. And just to finish on my absolute ramble, he's in the top 5% for touches per 90 in the 2023 MLS calendar, 76.9. In the top 5% for passes received, 55.8. In the top 6% for passes attempted, 66.35. And in the, as I said, in the top 7% for tackles, in the top 4% for carries as well. So he's an aggressive player, somebody that wants to receive the ball a lot, somebody that is very involved, very busy, very good at trying to break up that play. Loves a big switch as well. That's something that I noticed of him. And yeah, be interested to get your take on Aidan Morris, Jonny.
Yeah, it's a really interesting move, isn't it? I think for £4 million, euro, dollars, pesos, whatever it is. I think the $4 million, I think it's a really interesting fee. And I think you can definitely sell him on for a bigger fee in the future if he adapts well into the league. And, for a 22-year-old sign on a 4-year deal, you're going to get him at a time where you're probably hopefully trying to sell him at his most expensive part of his career. So we should be able to hopefully, as a business standpoint, if he progresses well, we don't want to lose our best players, of course, but if you think of financially longer term, he does really well those 4 years, you could get a bit of cash for him. I think in terms of play, it was really interesting for me because he reminds me of different parts of Boro players that I've played for Boro in the last 18 months. Passing wise, well, like the more give and go wise, he kind of reminded me of Alex Bauer a little bit. He also reminded me of the way he was able to break up play. There was elements of him Hackney where he was able just to find that through ball through, and that big switch as well by Dan Balassa as well. So he's a little blend of different players. And, when we're looking at players like this, and we look at the time that they have on the ball, is the intensity there in the league? And when we're looking at the MLS as well, it's not necessarily a bad league. It's just a case of there is more travel involved. There is, a different climate. The press might not be as strong. There's different parts of the environment which impacts the game, what you see. And, the quality is getting better and better in the MLS. And I remember watching the David Beckham documentary and going, God, I remember the pictures on that. I remember the quality you'd see on that. It is a completely different environment now, the MLS. Like, the standards getting a lot better. The last 4 or 5 years where the investment's been there and we've seen the league to develop, and they're starting to bring out these really good players from the US, and you'll only ever see more and more of that coming out from the USA. But in terms of a player wise, I'm not particularly concerned by any means of how if he was to find it quite difficult to transition to the league. But overall, I quite like him. I definitely prefer him as a deeper player, though. I think I would not like to see him as an 8. I think he's more of a 6. I like to see him just break up the play. And one thing I would like to see more of is just a bit of arrogance and just a bit of and not like it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's like I'm the guy here. I will break things up a little bit like how Sam Morsy does for Ipswich. A little bit like you mentioned there, Josh Cullen. He did remind me of Josh Cullen as well. Josh Cullen's a bit more of a busier player and probably won't be as progressive with the play, but Aidan Morris probably will be, and it suits our style a lot more than what we're doing. But he's going to get older. He's going to get stronger. He's still a young player. I think he will get better. And I think he will, hopefully, fingers crossed, be a good signing for us. In terms of excitement levels, we'll probably come on to it in just a moment. And I feel like everyone wants to hear that. But I think we should get another opinion, Dana, from another Columbus Crew fan. And we spoke to the Upper 90 Club podcast as well to get some review. A little bit more insight on Aidan Morris.
Hey, Boro fans. This is Ben with the Upper 90 Club podcast, a Columbus Crew podcast, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Aidan Morris, your new player acquisition. I mean, basically, he's here, he's there, he's every here. It's Aidan Morris. He's a 6'8" hybrid. He's usually best when he's paired with somebody in the middle. He currently is paired with Darlington Nagbe, which is one of the best players in the league and has been for the past 10 years. He's pretty much been under his tutelage the entire time, studying tape. and it's shown. The guy's phenomenal. Like I said, he plays best when he's paired with somebody. So you guys play a 4-2-3-1 or a 3-2-5 in transition. We play like a 3-4-3, but he always plays in like a 2, like, you know, hybrid 6-8 role. He can press up, but mostly he's just there to champion the middle of the pitch. He has 5 caps for the national team. He wasn't selected for this upcoming Copa America, but he was selected for the Olympic squad in Paris. But since you guys poached him from us, he had to like bow out of the Paris Olympics. His current season through FOTMOB, he averages a 7.7, which is the highest on our team. And I would argue that we're one of the best teams and have been since the past couple years in MLS. So being one of the best players on the best team it's a huge loss for us. So as far as my thoughts go, here's the deal. You took my child, and I will find you guys, Boro. I'm flying to Teesside Airport, and I'm taking back my son. On all honesty, he's the most amazing, hardest working player on the team that I've seen since I started watching the team back in 96, which is when we started. He covers the most ground typically in the game. He's always the guy that covers the most ground. He never stops running. I would say my favorite part of his play isn't necessarily his, you know, hardworking, getting stuck in the middle. He has a great eye for that crossfield ball. So if he gets the ball and we break the press, he's able to usually see that crossfield ball into the channels or out wide to start the attack. It's brilliant. It's awesome. Let's see here. The last thing you guys wanted me to cover was weakness. And to be honest with you, I think his only weakness is that he cares too much. As far as any weakness goes, I would probably point out that if it's just him sitting back in front of a center back pairing, that's not exactly where he shines. He usually plays better when there's, you know, somebody close that he can play off of to create space going through the middle. We play out of the back pretty much exclusively, so he's constantly moving around the center. And when that doesn't happen and it's just him, it's hard for him to find space. But in all honesty, if you're just playing, you know, 1-6 in front of 2 center backs and you're trying to break the press, good luck. That's not really how that works. But again, I'll be following you guys. A lot of the crew fans will be following Boro moving forward, just because you got our, you know, one of our homegrowns, one of our own. You got a great deal, and I'm excited to see where he goes. And I honestly think the championship will be a wonderful place for him. It's a very physical league. He's a very physical player. And he should slot right in. And I'm really excited for you guys. And hopefully I can get over and see a game. But until then, tip of the hat. We'll be seeing you. Cheers.
Thank you very much for that, Ben. So, Dana, where does he fit then? He's a 6, he's an 8. Yes, we've kind of made the assumption, and we've got a really good bit of analysis from the Columbus Crew fans, and you know we have took the best player, and we've got some fans going to Teesside Airport to bring him back. But where do you think he fits?
That's an interesting question, because I think I wouldn't be surprised at the beginning of the season if he takes a place on the bench just whilst he gets acclimatized to England. So I think we will start with Howson and Hackney at the beginning. I mean, he is stylistically the most similar to Hayden Hackney in regards to a couple of metrics. If I pull up my article that I posted the other day, he's alike in terms of passes attempted, pass completion, progressive passes. There's not a big difference in successful take-ons and touches in the attacking third, but the key difference is Morris's defensive stats. He excels in tackling, making more in 2023 than any of Boro's midfielders last season, and in Hackney's case the season before, because I did have to take the data from the previous season, because obviously last season for Hayden Hackney was absolutely shagged by injuries. So yeah, there's similarities between him and Hackney. I think it's an interesting one, because I'm thinking he'll probably partner Howson, but you can't leave out Hackney. So I'm going to be really interested in seeing how that kind of blends. What I take from it is that Dan Barlas's Middlesbrough days are numbered.
Yeah, well, he is linked with a move away to Turkey, of all places. I mean, who does actually represent internationally. I mean, born and raised in like Newcastle, but now plays for Turkey. Quite funny, isn't it? But I think with that, for me, I would prefer him with Hackney. I think, and the reason why I say that, I think Hackney is a much better player, and this isn't a disrespect to Aidan Morris at all. I just think it's a really big Hayden Hackney strength. Hayden Hackney is very good at progressing the ball with his feet and dribbling through, and trying to create chances through his dribbling more so than his passes. Where I think with Aidan Morris, he's very busy defensively, but I think also he's probably better with that diag pass like we've seen in the clips, breaking up the play, trying to start something. So if he is able to tackle someone, he's able to start the attack from there rather than Hayden Hackney, who can do it from possession. So for me, that duo, Hackney and Morris, I think would be really good. And, you know, it is that longer term replacement for Housen. We've been looking for it for the last couple of seasons. It hasn't really came. Hackney's and Housen's got better and better in games where you shouldn't really be. But I do think it's time that we need to start playing these new players that are coming into the squad, and trying to have that longer term replacement. And that 22-year-old, we might not see the best of him this year, but I think next year is that year where hopefully he starts to come really good for us, but it might surprise us as well. And the point that you were saying there, Dan, that he could be a 6 or 7, and I think a big compliment for Aidan Morris this year is that people don't talk about him, because that is just a consistent player week in, week out, and you have no qualms about it. And I think that's exactly what we need from Aidan Morris this year. I appreciate we'll have a lot of fans from the US watching him and trying to tell his story in the United States. But I think for us, if we just keep it nice and quiet, let him play, let him adapt, and let him play him in that field. And I think he will get caught a couple of times though in his early times, just as he's getting used to the league, because it's intense, it's relentless over a longer period. And I think that he will adapt fairly quickly, just looking at his current behavior, like his current like videos and the tape that we've seen through Y Scout. But I don't know what your thoughts are in terms of him adapting or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I think that will take time for him to adapt. I would not be surprised if there's clamour for him to start, both from Boro fans and from the onlooking Columbus Crew fans and MLS watchers. I think be patient with him. I would say he himself has acknowledged the difference between the MLS and the Championship, and he's even mentioned that the speed will probably be quicker. He's called this move a leap of faith. So this is him venturing outside of his comfort zone. Big fan of him doing that and essentially challenging himself to progress his career. I think that's admirable and what basically every footballer should do. But my worry would be that he gets stuck between two roles, between that 6, being that holding player and kind of screening in front of the defence and popping those balls in behind, either over the top or along the floor, you know, those progressive passes, and being a box-to-box player. I think a lot of the time, of course, you can have players that do it all, and that's fantastic. But I think I am thinking about Boro players that have followed that I think have maybe been caught between the two, and we haven't really seen the best of them. So that's probably where my concern lies, and of course whether he can translate his game over to English football. But that's kind of a given, isn't it? When you have players like this, it's can they adapt and can they really show what they're capable of in a completely different league and in a completely different country.
Yeah, and what I would say on this as well, and was just before we move into the final message from Ethan, who's the football enthusiast, and who is a Columbus Crew fan as well, is that we have got a lot of players who are very good at creating. Now, I think that you look at Finn Azaz, Riley McGree, Hayden Hackney, Aidan Morris. Elaf creates his own chances through his press and getting in behind, but I don't like him doing that. You know, you have Isaiah Jones with his at times when he can get the ball in behind and beat his man.
When he can get the ball off the floor.
And get the ball off the floor. You've got Luke Ayling, who had a lot of assists last year, but I still think we need another right back. There's Ryan Giles being linked again. So then we think of all of these layers, and you're trying to think of how you can become a really creative and fun team. It does have the ingredients to do that. Defensively, could do a bit of work. But I think sometimes, when we're looking at Boro and how we've played over the last couple of years, it can be really exciting for us. And we always want, and you definitely want in teams, you need different layers, you need different abilities, you need a player who can create something out of nothing. And all those ingredients are slowly starting to come together for Boro. And I think it's quite a fun squad to look at. I think if you're anyone who's like a neutral, I think Boro's team right now could potentially, on paper, look really fun. But then as we come towards the end, and we will come to our 5 out of 5 rate in just a moment. Let's have a quick look at what Ethan mentioned, said over to us. And what does it say?
It says, he says that I like to think of him as a wrecking ball, defensive midfielder who loves to tackle, reads the game at a high level, rarely misses, will win the ball and quickly give it off to a more creative player, solid and trustworthy as a defensive player, runs all over the pitch and is constantly winning fouls from purely frustrating other midfield players. A young engine who runs for days, and we have been lucky to have him had him in our midfield. The times that he does miss his tackles, it leaves us quite exposed. That's probably because of the high press that he does initiate. Yeah. He may misjudge a duel high up the pitch, which leads to a nasty counter. Also loves to sit around 30 yards and can smash it in if he has space. By the way, disclaimer on that, don't expect it. Because unless you're thin as ours, you shouldn't really expect it, to be honest. But it's good. I think, any Columbus Crew fans watching this, big thank you, because they've really helped us with this lowdown. And I think they've been really good at giving Boro fans a picture of what they can expect from Aidan Morris. And hopefully they can watch a few Boro games next season if that tickles their fancy.
I think they'd enjoy it. I think they would enjoy the way that we've played under Michael Carrick, and
it's very like them. It's very like Columbus Crew. Like, I really enjoyed watching Columbus Crew when I was really deep diving on Aidan Morris. I think they play some fantastic football, and under their manager Wilfred Nancy, I think, very, very good manager. Let me just check if that's his name.
Yeah, it was mentioned earlier in one of the clips. But I feel like our Columbus friends would give this a 5 out of 5, and it would be the best sign. I mean, we've got people wanting to fly over to bring him back. But how would you rank the sign out of 5, D?
I think I'm being a little bit more lenient this year with my ratings. I mean, it's a rating, isn't it? I'm not going to overthink it. I'll probably go with a 3.5, because I think he can really plug the gap of what Boro have maybe been missing in midfield in terms of that connectivity between building out from the back. But obviously, there's massive question marks over whether he will actually adapt to the league. But in terms of his play style, I think he does have fan favourite potential, because he's one of those chasers that never gives up. Nothing is ever a lost cause with Aidan Morris. A very good energy, and I think Boro fans will absolutely love that. So 3.5 for me for Aidan Morris. What about you?
I was actually thinking 3.5. I've got it wrote down on my notepad. 3.5 for me.
I had no idea about that, Johnny. I don't have access to your notepad, just to let you know.
I know you are a few miles away. But the 3.5 potential, it has potential, doesn't it? A move, and that's all you want from a move in general. Sometimes I think you want someone who can come in and really start to grow as a player, and I think we'll have that. You've seen his development over the last couple of seasons, and yes, there was an ACL injury, which some players don't come back from, and it looks like he's recovered really well and kicked on. So I think that is just a real big credit to him, and hopefully, fingers crossed, he can develop him further, and we can, if we were to sell him in maybe 4 years' time, you're talking at a fee of, this guy came for $4 million and he's gone for 14, 40, who knows these days. Football is going nuts. But for right now, Dee, thank you so much for joining me. To listeners and viewers, thank you so much for watching and listening to the video. Don't forget to give this video 5 star. Don't forget to give this podcast a 5-star rating. Give the video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the Boro Breakdown channel. And big thank you as well to our friends at Columbus Crew and all the fans there, because it really helps us out massively with this video. But that's it. This has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was all your Aidan Morris chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.